Super important topic. My name is Mike Reibel. I'm one of the managers and one of the owners of Realty Advantage. And today we have two guests with us that hopefully can shed some light on the Montgomery County requirements. I know there's a lot of confusion out there. We actually had a situation, I want to say it was about 3 weeks ago, where we were representing the seller. The home inspector came back and mentioned that the house only had wired detectors. So the homeowner went in and had a contractor put in battery units right next to all of them. And we went to settlement. Everybody was happy. They did the walkthrough, and we got a call about 2 weeks later from the buyer's agent saying that one of the new owner, the buyer's relatives had said, "Hey, I don't think that's right." So they had a quote from a contractor for $600 to replace the new ones. Of course, our seller was very upset. So a lot of confusion as to what's required. So this is a fantastic topic, and again, we really appreciate everybody participating. Looks like we're already close to 30 people already. So this is obviously a great topic people are interested in hearing about. So Chris, unless you have something to add, you want to turn it over to Jim?
No, that's really it. We do get a lot of questions about this. And like you mentioned, we actually had this on the books for last year. But then, of course, once the world changed, fire and rescue was all hands on deck, and we punted for then. And I'm just so happy to get it back on the calendar. So really important topic. And I think everyone will be really excited to hear the information. So thank you so much.
I'm Jim Resnick, but more important, I'm going to introduce the greatest boss in the world, and she's going to kick this off for us. Thank you all so much for having us. Mike, thank you for saying it's not a hot topic. You said it's an important topic, but it's not a hot topic, and thank you for that. Beth Ann, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, so we'll have the slides up, and if you want to kick it off.
Absolutely. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. We are so honored and privileged to join you today, and thank you in advance for your time. Christine, it's been like a marathon the last year, so we've gone kind of full cycle, so we're excited to present to you with the overarching goal to kind of demystify smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarm requirements, and maybe in the end make everybody here experts. We're going to provide an overview on fire safety, changes to Maryland's smoke alarm law, and a new law in Montgomery County addressing carbon monoxide alarms that went into effect in 2019. At the end, we have time reserved for a robust question and answers and anything else that you'd like to talk about. As Jim, I'm not who Jim was referring to, but my name is Beth Ann Nesselt with Montgomery County Fire Rescue, and my rock star colleague, Jim Resnick. We're kind of tag team throughout the presentation. In terms of, we are part of the Fire Chief's Office. Our division is called the Community Risk Reduction Section, and our small team just covers everything from car seats, school programs, community initiatives, senior safety, those with special needs, and one of our favorite to our realtors who have just such a great impact on what is happening in terms of safety in homes. So again, our goal is to educate, inspire, empower residents and those that help them to make fire safe and fire smart decisions. Again, we hope to take the complexities out of interpreting code, make it a little bit more user-friendly. We are not code compliance. Code compliance has a talented group of folks, and they fall under the Department of Permitting Services, and they have ultimate authority and interpretation of codes. So today we're going to be focused, as mentioned, on Montgomery County laws, requirements, and we'll talk a little bit about PG as that comes up. So next slide. Again, a big thank you to Christine Gray for going the distance. As she mentioned, we started this a year ago. Montgomery County Fire Rescue is led by Fire Chief Scott Goldstein, who has been our fire chief since 2015. He commands a staff of approximately 3,000 civilian, sworn, and volunteer personnel, and an infrastructure that includes over 37 fire stations. Again, our large metropolitan organization services and protects over 1 million residents from across 500 square miles. And on average, we respond to about 120,000 calls per year. Chief Goldstein is responsible for the overall operation, direction, vision of MCFRS. He is an incredible man, an incredible leader, and Montgomery County is really fortunate to have him leading the fire service, hands down the best fire chief you will find across the country or maybe even internationally. So we'll jump up to slide 3. One of our favorite tools is our social media tools. This is a quick snapshot of what we do. We have 2 very active Twitter accounts at MCFRSPIO. Pete Paringer is a household name. He posts enormous volume of information, incident-focused updates. We kind of come to the conclusion we don't think the man ever sleeps. He posts 24 hours a day. We also have at MCFRS, which is a Twitter account, again, focused on getting key messaging, important information out. And these accounts are focused on trending issues, seasonal safety topics, situational awareness for residents. And on the one side of your screen, you're going to see the MCFRS blog spot, where we take the opportunity to expand beyond the, character limits of Twitter and talk about new laws or things that you can add to your Realtor toolbox or, your resident toolbox. So again, I would encourage you to just tap on there at any point, see what's trending. We've always got something interesting to look at. So I am going to actually flip the next slide. I think it's going to be Jim's for a quick video.
So what I've got for you guys now is a little bit of a teaser. We are going to get in depth into smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, the requirements and things like that. But before we dive into that, I've got a brief video. This is actually a little bit less than 1 minute and 20 seconds that we're going to watch. This is a real live situation that occurred this past August in a suburb of Denver, Colorado. The gentleman who you see seated in the chair there, it's his 85th birthday, and he came over to his son's house to celebrate the birthday along with a total of about 10 family members. So they've gathered at this home in this suburb of Denver, Colorado, for a little birthday lunch, for a little birthday celebration. You can tell that the gentleman who's seated here, he's 85 years old. You can see that he has some physical challenges because there's a walker in front of him. And later on, the family found out that he was actually diagnosed shortly after this with some level of cognitive impairment, whether it was dementia or Alzheimer's, I'm not sure. In any case, that's going to come into play in a couple of moments. Now, in order to get him into the den here, because of his walker, there had been a coffee table that had been in front of that couch that you see towards the left side of the screen. So they moved the coffee table over to what I'll call our left, so towards the window with the curtains that you see there. What they didn't realize, whoever slid that coffee table over, didn't realize there was a lit candle on that coffee table. That candle wound up underneath the curtains, and we're going to see how quickly a fire grows and develops. Now, here's a spoiler alert. Everybody got out okay. No one was injured. Nobody died. The fire department was on the scene within 5 minutes of when this fire started, and the home was a total loss. 5 minutes. We're going to watch about 1 minute and 16 seconds. I'd like you to watch and listen, please. And now you can see flames present above the curtains. Folks, if that is This video, we're allowed to share this based upon what the family has indicated, and it's a great reminder about why fire safety, fire prevention is so important, okay? Now, there's a few lessons learned there. First of all, as we said, the gentleman, well, first of all, everybody was okay, and no one was injured, nobody died. The gentleman who was there in the room didn't react as we would have hoped that he would have, okay? We would have hoped that when he saw the smoke or the flames, he would have yelled, fire, there's a fire in the room, everybody get out, or something like that. He did not react that way, which led to obviously a little bit of a delay. Another thing is we never heard any smoke alarms. Now, I wouldn't necessarily expect that you're going to have a smoke alarm in the den. We're going to find out more about smoke alarms in a little bit, but the key to smoke alarms is they're designed to do two things for us. They're designed to wake us up when we're asleep, and they're designed to protect the way out. Because there's no doors from that room, and that's not a primary exit going from the den, I wouldn't expect that that's a primary exit, and therefore probably no smoke alarms to protect that room. And also no one sleeping in or near that room, I'm assuming. So I'm hoping that there were smoke alarms in other parts of the home, near the bedrooms, near the foyer and the front door, but we'll figure out more about that later. When the woman walked in the room, recognized there was a fire and yelled, fire, 911, another family member instinctively just picked up their cell phone, dialed 911, gave the correct address, said there's a fire in the house and we're all evacuating. All the right things happened like that. And as I said, the fire department was on the scene within 5 minutes. The home was completely destroyed because fire grows so fast and so exponentially. So that's why we use this this video kind of as a teaser to talk about the importance of the other things that we're going to be talking about as this slideshow goes on. So and real quick, are there any questions right now on what we've covered so far with that? And I'm not seeing anything in the chat, and we got a small enough group that if anyone wants to yell out something, that's fine. But otherwise, I'm getting right back into the slides.
You got everybody's attention.
That's kind of the idea with it, okay? And how quickly something like that can occur, certainly. All right, so why smoke alarms? Why do we want to follow these laws for smoke and carbon monoxide alarms? Well, the first thing is we want to think about the clients that you guys have. Their families, their kids, their seniors, that's why you guys love the job that you have, because you take care of getting people's dreams to come true. I also like that one up in the top right-hand corner. It lets you sleep better when you know that you've got your folks set up in a nice home. And also, this is not just for you guys and your clients, but this is for you and your family and your personal life. So these are all really good reasons to make sure that we're following these smoke and carbon monoxide alarm laws. But there's one other thing. Oh yeah, the law, okay? We've got to make sure that we do stuff that meets all the legal requirements for the transfer of the title of the home, and make sure that on day one, when your new clients and when your new buyers walk into that home, they are going to be sleeping that night in a home that's safe, that will protect them. God forbid a fire does occur. All right. Beth Ann, Tag, you're it.
All right, perfect. Hey, Mike had alluded earlier to some of the complexities in terms of interpreting code. So a big question that we get is, how do I find out what the code requirements are for smoke alarms? So our website, the address is located right at the top, actually has laid out areas to answer this question. If you follow the blue arrow and then the yellow highlighted parts, it's going to put you exactly where you need to actually go through and figure out what the code requirements are and essentially what the minimum standards are. So we'll go to the next slide. I'd love to poll to see once we get to the next slide, how many people have ever seen this before. This is a quick look when you hit what the requirements are, what you'll see. It's a crosswalk aligned with the date of construction or renovation, which is key to determining what type of smoke alarms are required. Requirements are also influenced when permits are pulled for work. Remodels require often that the owner update the smoke alarm system and CO, carbon monoxide alarms, to the current code requirements. So we'll jump to the all-important slide, which is smoke alarms. In January of 2018, Maryland updated the smoke alarm law. Smoke alarm technology has advanced over the years, and these updates to Maryland's smoke alarm law are part of kind of a nationwide trend to ensure that new and replacement smoke alarms have the most effective technology available. The intent of Maryland's new smoke alarm law was to achieve as much reliable smoke alarm coverage as possible in older dwellings, those built before 1975. So as you look at this slide, key information, smoke alarms. All smoke alarms have an expiration date. They have a service life of 10 years. So it's critical that you're able to determine what the manufacturer date, which is printed on the smoke alarm, and then again, do your calculation to see whether it's within date within that 10-year period. So where do these smoke alarms need to be? They need to be by law on every level of the home. And when you think of, what split level homes or contemporary construction homes, just to give you a metric, 3 or more stairs by code equals a level. Smoke alarms need to be within 20 feet of bedroom doors. You'll often see when you look at this matrix that it says outside smoke alarms should be placed outside sleeping areas in inside bedrooms. So if you have a long hallway and it says a smoke alarm, keep in mind that 20-foot rule, because you may have to install multiple alarms to be able to alert the occupants in the event of a fire emergency. And again, inside each bedroom, a strong recommendation, and this has been a code requirement for homes that have been built or had permitted work after July 1st of 1997. So getting back to Mike, the key question on power source. Two-family homes hardwired with a battery backup are code for homes built after July 1st, 1975, or have had permitted work that then code says, hey, you're doing all this construction as part of your project. We are going to require you as part of the permit to upgrade your smoke alarms, because we know smoke alarm technology, just like every single day, and we want to make sure that people have what they need to alert themselves to a potential fire emergency, particularly because at the speed, as Jim mentioned, that things burn these days. The sealed long life 10-year battery smoke alarms were designed, envisioned to replace the old battery powered that were powered by a 9-volt battery. And these by code were permitted in homes constructed before July 1st, 1975. So I want to kind of drill that year. I don't know what the #1 song was back then, but 1975 is kind of that line in the sand where code had a major change, recognized and brought on the technology of hardwired smoke alarms. And then when you study that matrix, you'll see incremental changes, improvements. As smoke alarms improved, within 2 years, they were interconnected, meaning when one alarms in the basement at 3 o'clock in the morning, it alerts on each floor, again, to give, as Jim mentioned, the occupant time to safely escape. Having a battery backup is crucial, because when your power goes out in your home, if it was just relying on that power of that home, you wouldn't have smoke alarm protection, particularly when you need it most. You'll see if you watch our Twitter what happens when the power goes out. People get really creative with fire. It's why Jim and I don't sleep on those nights. But needless to say, they have a battery backup so that smoke alarm transitions over from relying on the home's AC. It then essentially short-term becomes a battery-powered smoke alarm when there's no power to the house. And then again, we primarily focus on single-family residential properties, but for multifamily condos, apartments, the requirement is always going to be hardwired with a battery backup. Again, focus on that date. So we'll just jump to the next slide. So carbon monoxide alarm law. This was just significant work by Council Member Craig Rice, who looked at the statistics, studied the statistics on CO deaths and poisonings. And this law was introduced in Montgomery County. Now, PG was actually ahead of us on this, but Montgomery County introduced new carbon monoxide alarm requirements effective July 1st, 2019, for single, 2-unit and townhouse dwellings that were built before 2008. And again, I hate to keep hitting you with all these dates, but this became a retroactive law. So for existing homes built before 2008 that have essentially fuel burning appliances, as noted on the slide, natural gas, propane, heating oil, wood, kerosene, if that home has an attached garage, a fireplace, or a generator, that home needs to have added carbon monoxide alarms on each level of the home effective July 1st, 2019, if they didn't have them already. Featured on the bottom, look at the different power sources. For 2008, retroactive law means that your carbon monoxide alarm can be a plug-in, which is kind of in picture number 3, has a battery backup. You can see one that looks almost like a thermostat. It has a sealed 10-year battery and it attaches right to the wall. Smoke and carbon monoxide alarms also come in an integrated unit. So they've taken the technology of both alarms, integrated it into a unit that goes on the ceiling. And then they also have something that just sits on your nightstand or your, a shelf, again, to achieve the intent of the law, and also most importantly, to alert the residents to carbon monoxide poisoning, which again is called the silent killer, responsible for many accidental poisoning deaths. And then we'll go to the next slide, and boom, this is kind of some of the stuff that we would love for you to add to your toolbox. If you're ever looking to, add something to your website or maybe a mailing that talks about what the leading causes of fire. We have all this information right on our website. Again, extension cords, ever since like a year ago, the number of electrical fires involving extension cords and power strips has just been exponential. And again, that was that transition of homes to multi-offices, schools, classrooms, gyms, a lot of living homes kind of stretched to capacity. And then we'll go to the next slide. And again, it just captures a couple more, looking at the candle fires, as Jim talked about. And just last night in Rockville, we had a significant fire. The report's not in, but the cause was a candle that was forgotten when the family went to bed. So very fortunately, they escaped. Family of 4 currently displaced. I'll focus a little bit on the last graphic where you can find that manufacture date. So let's say you were 4 years ago and you bought your smoke alarm and they've been in your closet. It's key that you look at that manufacture date to calculate the 10 years. It's not the date when somebody got around to installing them. The actual time begins from that manufacture date, which can be easily found on the smoke alarm. If you can't find a date on that smoke alarm, it's well past its service life. And I think I have one more slide to go. And we do postcards. We've sent out different postcards. So if you have an interest in a mailing and kind of want to partner with fire safety, or you're looking for a interesting topic to add to your mailing, just let us know. I'm happy to design anything that you would like to be able to, again, kind of work with you to be our partners in safety and that kind of force multiplier with the safety information. And I think Jim's going to take over with some residential fire sprinkler information.
But I'm going to point out a couple of things real quick. Number one, Beth Ann challenged you guys, who knows what the #1 song was in July of 1975?
Nice.
Gotta be.
Fun.
One thing I've learned about working with Beth Ann is you gotta be quick. The second thing is Elizabeth. I don't know if anyone could see on their screen Elizabeth's view, but while Beth Ann was talking about smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, where they are, the age, I could see Elizabeth looking up at the ceiling in her home. Thank you. That's exactly what we want you to do. We want you guys to be basically like firefighters. And when firefighters walk into a place, the first thing we do is we look up. We're looking to see if there's smoke alarms. We're looking to see if there's fire sprinklers. And in a multifamily building or a store or a movie theater or whatever, we're looking for exit signs. I love to see her look up, and that's what we're thrilled that you did that. And that's a good example for everyone. So a quick word about residential fire sprinklers. The fire sprinklers have come, it depends on the type of a residence that you're working with, but as early as the late 1980s, early 1990s is when they started first requiring fire sprinklers to be put in all new townhouses and also all new multifamily dwellings, apartments or condominiums. Then they got around to changing the law for single family homes. What we call in the fire code is 1 and 2 family homes. So traditionally our single family detached homes. In Montgomery County and in fact throughout the state of Maryland, that law kicked in, I believe it was 2003. So there's no retroactive requirement at this time. So you don't have to go back and put in sprinklers in an existing home. The home that I'm in, where you see me right now, was built in 1962. So I don't have to have sprinklers in here, but it's something that we're considering doing. When you do see fire sprinklers, they might be the pendant type, like what I'm holding up, if you can see that, or you can see it in the picture on the screen there that says the pendant fire sprinkler, or some of them are concealed. There are also some, in some rare situations, you might find them mounted on the wall, but high up towards the ceiling. The way that these things work is they are heat activated. It is not smoke. It's not the smoke alarms. It's nothing like that. It is source of where the closest fire sprinkler is to the fire. So as we saw in that video from Colorado, the flames start going up, the smoke goes up, and the heat, because of physics, the heat goes up. When the temperature at the ceiling level, wherever the fire sprinklers are located, gets to be about 135 degrees Fahrenheit, that is going to cause that little glass bulb that you see in the middle of the fire sprinkler head. That little glass bulb is full of a liquid that's going to expand at 135 degrees, and that glass bulb breaks. When the glass bulb breaks, it releases a little cap, which is blocking the water from flowing out. So as soon as the glass is gone, the water is going to flow out. It will usually flow out at about 10 to 15 gallons per minute, and it's going to create a shower in that immediate area. What that does is the following. Number one, it reduces the temperature instantly. The instant that the water starts flowing, the temperature in that area drops very, very quickly, which prevents what we call flashover. And flashover occurs when everything in the room gets to the same ignition temperature at once, and it's almost like an explosion. People cannot survive flashover. Firefighters in all their gear cannot survive flashover. So what the fire sprinklers do is they prevent flashover from occurring, and that's what makes it possible for people to be some water damage, but the water damage is minuscule compared to the just horrible damage that we can have from a fire. And the most important thing is they save lives. Fire sprinklers save lives. So if you have the opportunity to kind of push people towards homes that have sprinklers, please talk them up. They are incredibly good. They're incredibly important. Now, there is one maintenance thing that most people, and I'm talking everyone from homeowners to realtors to even home inspectors don't know about the fire sprinkler system. In the areas where WSSC water is in charge of the water system, so for most of Montgomery County, but not Poolsville and not the corporate limits of Rockville, but the rest of Montgomery County and also in Prince George's County, when you do have a residential fire sprinkler, there is a backflow preventer. And what that does is it keeps the water that's in the pipe above my ceiling that are full of this nasty water that's been sitting in there for years. It keeps that water in the pipes where it can do a great job of putting out a fire, but we don't want to drink that water. That water is not healthy water. So this backflow preventer keeps the water, if there is a loss of pressure. So let's say there's a water main break down the street from my house and I lose water pressure. That means the water in my pipes is going to start backflowing. We don't want the water from the sprinkler system to backflow and get into our drinking water. So that's what this valve is for. And it needs to be replaced, according to WSSC, every 5 years. I'll warn you guys, it's not a cheap proposition. You're talking probably anywhere from $200 to $500 every 5 years to replace this thing. And I'll tell you that 99.9% of the homeowners, home inspectors, and realtors that I've ever spoken with about this do not know that this tag is there in the closet where the water comes into the house and then splits off towards the sprinkler system. So just to be aware of that.
Okay.
A last thing about sprinklers real quick. This is a very, very graphic example of how they work. This is a side-by-side fire sprinkler demonstration. This one in particular was not done in Montgomery County, but we have done several of these. So what they've done is they've built two identical rooms. They're furnished exactly the same, with the same couch, the same love seat, the same television set, lamp, curtains, and whatever. One of those rooms has a fire sprinkler. Obviously, it's the one on the left that says fire sprinkler protected. The one on the right does not. And what they simulate is a candle falling on a couch at the same time in each of the rooms. So the fire started at the same time in each of these rooms. As you can see, the one on the left, the fire has been extinguished. The smoke alarm in that room went off 35 seconds after the fire started. The fire sprinkler activated less than a minute after the fire started at the 58-second mark, and it looks like it's pretty much pristine. The room on the right has now reached and it's past flashover, which is when everything in there is on fire. As I say, it's not survival, and that happened at just under 2 minutes, at 1 minute and 49 seconds. So a fire sprinkler prevents flashover, makes it survivable, and that's what they're all about. Beth Ann, here's our contact information if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Please note that we've actually, sometimes we get calls from the for clarification on smoke alarm laws. So we've been there right with you, but feel free to reach out. We hear from folks all the time. Again, just trying to understand the interpretation and what has changed and what new construction means versus old construction. So please don't hesitate. Our phone number, our emails, and I guess we can jump to questions, Jim.
And let me go ahead and stop the share. And I've got with me here in my home office right now some examples of some of the smoke alarms and the like that you might see. So this is a hardwired smoke alarm that you can see. This one in particular, the date is here on the bottom. The date of manufacture is here on the bottom, and I'm guessing you might be able to see it. May 14th of 2018. But what I've also done is I've written on here that the replacement date should be May of 2028. So that's one thing that you'll see on some smoke alarms is they do have the labels there, which makes it a little easier. That way I don't have to drop the whole thing down from the ceiling to look at the date. This is a first alert smoke alarm. And again, I've circled the manufacturer date on this one. This is again a hardwired alarm. And just to reiterate the important thing that Beth Ann said, all smoke alarms, whether they're hardwired or battery only, need to be replaced every 10 years.
10 years.
Questions? Did we answer everything?
We do have a few questions in the chat. I'd like to kind of work through those.
Sure.
I know, Elizabeth, you had asked specifically about PG County. So Jim, if you don't mind touching base on that. And then also Karen in the chat room had asked, she's in Howard County. So I didn't know if you could speak to either one of those.
Actually, Beth Ann, do you want to address those, please?
Yeah, tell me just real quick just to clarify for the smoke alarm law, that is for the state of Maryland. So anything related to the smoke alarm is for the state of Maryland. Carbon monoxide, Montgomery County's law. So exclusive to Montgomery County. But Elizabeth, I'll get your information. I can do some quick research. Hey, look at Jim and I, we practiced this. But I'll do some research just to find the key dates for you for Prince George's.
Thank you.
Maybe Jim, I'll pass it back to Jim. Just a lot of people have confusion with where carbon monoxide alarms should be located. So I'll toss this to Jim. He'll also talk about alarms, smoke and scale, and how important the location for those are when it's integrated technology.
So
I
thank
have
you, Beth.
another question. If you are renting a property, do you put in more smoke alarms than if you're living in the property?
So the question has to do with rental. So the rental requirements, and we can speak to Montgomery County. If you have a rental property, then it falls under the guidance and the regulations of the Department of Housing. It's not a fire department thing. It's not even a fire code compliance thing. It falls under the Department of Housing. I'm not completely well versed on that. I can tell you as a minimum, if it's a rental, it's got to meet the same things that Beth Ann and I were already talking about, with at least one working in-date smoke alarm on each level of the home. The level where the bedrooms are, it needs to be in the proximity of the bedroom doors. And if it's a newer property, then there's also a requirement for the smoke alarms to be inside the bedrooms too. I can tell you that is an absolute.
Each bedroom?
Inside each room, each bedroom, that is correct. All right. And then getting to what Beth Ann was also starting to talk about, with carbon monoxide in Montgomery County, it's pretty straightforward. You need a working carbon monoxide alarm, less than 10 years old, on each occupied level of the home. So if you have a traditional colonial home, you need basement, first floor, second floor. You need to have a working carbon monoxide.
Clean up how you're still getting them cleaned up. I got you.
Actually, if you're not talking right now, could you please mute yourself? Thank you. And as Beth Ann mentioned, some of them are plug-ins, some are battery only, and some of them are combination smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. In jurisdictions that don't have a comprehensive carbon monoxide alarm law, then the minimum stuff that you have, and this follows the manufacturer's recommendations, are if you're only going to have one carbon monoxide alarm, it should be on the level where people sleep. The most important thing is that when you go to sleep, that you can hear a carbon monoxide alarm. However, carbon monoxide, as we've learned over the years, it's pumped through the home through the heating and air conditioning ducts. So therefore, even though you might have an initial problem in the basement, maybe the furnace or the water heater is the source of the carbon monoxide problem, but the carbon monoxide gets pumped throughout the whole house through the normal heating and air conditioning system. And that's why Montgomery County law, being so progressive, said we need to have a carbon monoxide alarm on each level of the home.
And you don't need one in every bedroom like the smoke detectors?
Correct. It's not a bad idea to have them, but I'll describe my house. I've got a 2-level home. I've got a working combination hardwired smoke and carbon monoxide alarm, one on the lower level, one on the upper level, and then in each bedroom, I've got just a smoke alarm. They're all hardwired, they're all connected to each other, and that way, even if the carbon monoxide problem is on the lower level and I'm asleep upstairs in my bedroom, the smoke alarm and the carbon monoxide alarm, because they're wired, they talk to each other. So I get that early warning that way. Now, hey, real quick, what do we do if our smoke alarm or our carbon monoxide alarm go off?
Run.
I'm not into running, okay? And you'd understand why. There's other reasons, but you've got the right idea. The 2 words that I like are get out. Get out, get out, get out. When you get out, you call 911. Don't delay getting out in order to call 911. Everybody gets out, and you need to have a planned meeting place. For my family, it's my next door neighbor's front porch, okay? For someone else, it might be the tree in the front yard or the end of the sidewalk or the mailbox. I don't care where it is, as long as everyone in your household knows where that is. That it works. Oh boy, I did push the button, and we're going to hear it work. 3 beeps. That's the sound of a working smoke alarm. 4 short beeps. It's going to do it again. 4 short beeps is carbon monoxide. So this is a good working smoke alarm and carbon monoxide alarm. 3 beeps smoke, 4 beeps carbon monoxide. And what do?
Get out.
Get out. Love it. Other questions?
Yeah, Jim, we had 2 other questions in the chat. One was, I guess Brigitta is saying, some home inspectors say that detectors, the carbon monoxide detectors, should be mounted no higher than 5 feet. Is that correct?
Actually, that's not. And Beth Ann had a slide that she showed earlier, which does a great job of showing what we know about the physical and chemical properties of carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide mixes very, very evenly with room air. And that's why I can have a carbon monoxide alarm like this one that plugs into an outlet that's down towards the floor. Or I can have a carbon monoxide alarm that looks kind of like a thermostat that's going to be at approximately eye level. Or I can have a combination smoke and carbon monoxide alarm on the ceiling. If I did have carbon monoxide in my home and I had one of each of those, they are all going to activate at about the same time.
Okay.
The big thing there also is follow the manufacturer's instructions for that particular alarm. So that's a great question. Thank you for asking.
We have a question from Kassar from our office. She's saying, do you need to install, I guess, either of the detectors in garage?
No, garages, attics, so an unfinished attic that's not like a bedroom or something like that. If it's just truly an attic, which doesn't have heating, ventilation, and so on, a crawl space, those are areas that we are not required to have either smoke or carbon monoxide alarms in, okay? Some homes are going to have an alarm which is connected to a monitoring company. So ADT, that type of stuff, Ackerman Security, those kinds of things. One of the add-ons that you can get with that type of a security system is a heat detector. Now, some people will want a heat detector in the garage, but a garage, the regular residential smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms are not rated for the garage because it's not climate controlled for the most part. And also with vehicles coming and going and so on, you're going to get so many false alarms, it's going to wear out the alarm. So that's why these are not designed for those spaces.
Tiffany had asked, what type of alarms do you recommend for the hearing impaired?
Funny you should ask, okay? we have available through the county, and we teach people about these if they want to purchase them on their own, and we certainly encourage that because we have a small budget and we don't have a lot of these things. There are strobe smoke alarms. This has an incredibly bright strobe light. This particular one is a plug-in, and it also has space for a battery backup, and we're going to talk about battery backups in a moment. This would actually go in the bedroom where the person sleeps. And there are also other devices that are out there on the market that have bed shakers. I'm going to show you one example of what the bed shaker looks like. So the bed shaker, this device sits on the nightstand. It will actually make an audible sound, but in addition to that, it's hooked up by a cord to this puck. This puck would go beneath the mattress, so between the mattress and the box spring. And if this alarm senses smoke or carbon monoxide, this thing shakes like crazy. It's incredible. If you have deaf clients, we would love to communicate with them. I don't do ASL, but I work with video, what's the term I'm thinking of? Video relay services and the like, and we can either help guide them through what they can purchase on their own, or if there is a true financial hardship, we do have some available for them. Call in Montgomery County, call 311 and ask for a home safety check for someone who is deaf. In the rest of the state of Maryland, they can go to fabscom.org. I'm going to put that in the chat. It's FABSCOM.org. That stands for the Fire and Burn Safety Coalition of Maryland. And they are the ones who have the program that can also provide these for people who have the financial need and who are deaf. That's great. Battery backups or types of battery. Let me ask you a question. Based upon what Beth Ann was talking about before, this alarm, 9-volt battery, is this acceptable in a home today?
No.
Why not?
No. Battery compartment is not sealed.
Oh, exactly. Now, even though the date on this one is still a good date, this was manufactured in 2015, so technically this alarm should be good till 2025. But in the state of Maryland, because it has a removable battery, this does not count. Now, what about a hardwired alarm? So this is a hardwired alarm, but this has a backup battery that's a 9-volt battery. Is that acceptable?
I believe so.
Actually, this is acceptable. For hardwired alarms, you can either have a 9-volt battery, you can have 2 AA batteries, or you can have a sealed 10-year battery backup. Any kind of a battery backup is okay, but the key there is that the batteries, if they're removable, changeable, whatever, that's not the primary power source. The primary power source for any home built after July built or has had permitted work since July 1st of 1975, they have to have hardwired alarms with some type of a battery backup. So, and there's, if you guys sounded or seemed confused about that at first, you're not alone. That's something that a lot of folks have struggled with, and that's one of the reasons that Beth Ann and I love getting out and speaking with realtors and speaking to the public to clear up some of those misconceptions.
So when you say permitted work, is that just if you did something in that area, or like if you got a permit to finish the basement, you're then subject to the new requirements upstairs?
Beth Ann, do you want to address that?
Absolutely. Yeah, it actually becomes what code compliance determines. So essentially anytime like electrical work, a building code, they then will, just in the interest of the occupants, upgrade the safety requirements. So, but again, it's always a call from code in terms of having the actual authority to do that. So yeah, great question.
We had a question from Doug. He's saying, what is the best type of sensor for smoke detectors? Ionization or photoelectric?
Awesome. Great question, Doug. Thank you for asking that. So basically, there's two types of technology that are currently in use in smoke alarms. One of them is photoelectric, and I don't know if you'll be able to read in the top of this. This particular alarm is a photoelectric alarm, and the other is ionization. And the ionization alarms, at the bottom of this, you see the lowercase I, and it says ionization beneath it. Two different technologies that can sense smoke. And ionization, for my money, is very easy to understand. I'm sorry, not the ionization, the photoelectric is easy to understand. When I walk into my dry cleaners or a convenience store and I walk through an invisible beam of light, I break that beam of light and the doorbell goes off, okay? We've all had that happen before. So you can wave your hand in front of something and the doorbell goes off, or the elevator doors stop closing, or other things like that. That's because there's an invisible beam of light. And if you break that beam of light, that's what sets off the alarm. A photoelectric smoke alarm works that way. If there's a fire and smoke gets into the chamber here and it obscures that beam of light, that's what makes the alarm go off. Now, if I've got a stink bug that happened to get into my smoke alarm and crawls where that is, it's going to make the alarm go off. Dust and pollen and steam from a shower, other things like that can cause a photoelectric alarm to go off. An ionization smoke alarm, my father was a nuclear engineer, and my father is now passed, and he would roll over in his grave if he heard me say this, but I don't understand how an ionization smoke alarm works. It has something to do, there's a small piece of radioactive material in here, and it has to do with the electrons and the protons and how they react with us. So that's as much as I can tell you about that. But the other thing I can tell you about ionization smoke alarms is they can pick up invisible products of combustion. If my wife or my son were to start cooking bacon right now, I'm going to smell it long before I would see any smoke. That's invisible products of combustion. So that's what ionization smoke alarms are for. Now, one type of alarm works well with a smoldering fire that kind of burns slowly for a while. The other type of alarm does well with fast flaming fires. I don't know what kind of a fire I'm going to have in my home, so the best answer is to have both kinds in my home. Now, there are some alarms out there on the market. Some are made by Kidde, K-I-D-D-E. Some are made by First Alert. Some are made by other manufacturers, and they have dual sensors. Inside a single alarm, they have both photoelectric and ionization. There's two good things about that kind. Number one is that they're going to sense either kind of a fire, but they also use checks and balances between those sensors, and you're less likely to get a false alarm from just normal cooking smoke or something like that. The bottom line is the state fire marshal for Maryland has said, I just want people to have working smoke alarms. That's the number one answer. It's better if they can have both kinds in their home, but at the end of the day, just have working smoke alarms in the right places. So that's a longer answer to a short question, but I hope it made sense.
It did. It did.
I have one more question, which has nothing to do with fire, but with closed-in garages. People have died because the motor was not shut off, and there is an exhaust emission that can into the house. Is there a detector for garages?
So again, specifically for the garages, there is not a carbon monoxide alarm that I'm aware of that's on the market today. If you're concerned about that, you could certainly go ahead and get any kind First Alert, Universal, kiddo, whatever like that, smoke alarm. But I'd suggest before you do that, you read the owner's manual so you understand what the limitations of that are in terms of temperature and other things like that. It may say specifically on the instructions for a particular carbon monoxide alarm, it may say, we do not recommend this be put in the garage. So like I say, I'm not aware of any that are specific for a garage right now, but that's something to be aware of. It's most important to have the carbon monoxide detection in the living areas, where we live and where we sleep. Remember that one of the primary signs and symptoms of inhalation, poisoning of carbon monoxide is it's going to give me a headache. It's going to make me really tired. So I'm going to want to go to my bedroom and lay down and go to sleep. And that's why it's so important that a working carbon monoxide alarm either in or near the bedrooms. BA.
Hey, Jim is holding up a tool that prior to 2020, we were actually using a lot with our seniors. It's called a File of Life. Jim's going to flip it to the back. It has a magnetic strip. It goes actually on your refrigerator, and paramedics in Montgomery County, should they be dispatched to your home, know to look at your refrigerator, not in your refrigerator, but at it, because it provides a quick snapshot of your medical history. This was particularly geared for folks that were kind of aging in place, living alone, maybe in a medical emergency, wouldn't have the ability to either recall critical information that's so important to paramedics as part of their care. Now, fast forward to March and April of 2020, and all of a sudden, loved ones were not permitted to accompany somebody on an ambulance or inside the hospital, and therefore this File of Life became a critical tool in everybody's emergency preparedness pack, because it spoke for that patient when they couldn't say what medications they were on. Or we had situations, people would call and say, my father-in-law was deaf, and nobody in the complexity of that situation last spring realized that he didn't have his hearing aids in, and they thought just because he was elderly, he just cognitively couldn't communicate, but it was simply because he couldn't hear the questions they were asking. File of Life will ask specifically whether you have any auxiliary aids, hearing impaired, things that you would want your doctors, your medical team to know. All free on our website. We mail them out, we deliver them, we work closely. Again, a lot of organizations to let folks know. So if you also work with seniors, it's just an invaluable tool. You can download it on our website. We actually came up with, 2020 was kind of a year of innovation in so many ways and thinking outside the box. So we kind of thought outside the File of Life packet, and we have a little design where you can just put it in a Ziploc and put it on the side of your refrigerator. And again, it's there, it's key. Medics know to look for that, because again, it provides your personal medical snapshot. So,
Great idea.
You can get one, as Beth Ann said, by going to our website or calling 311 and asking for it, or the phone number that you saw on one of the previous slides where it said to contact us. Amazingly, that's the number that's on here again.
Just so everybody knows, we'll be posting this on our website, and I'll also be sending out an email, because we are recording this. So we'll have links to all the sites that you had mentioned, along with your contact information, so they can reach out to you with any questions, and also get those resources from the county. Looks like we've answered all the questions. We really appreciate your time, and Chris, I really appreciate you coordinating with Beth Ann and Jim, and really riding out the early parts of the COVID storm. We're glad to have you guys join us. This has been fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Great.